Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Moms Who Made It YouTube channel. I'm your host, Nicole Green, founder of Motivating Young Moms, and today we have a long-time wanted guest, Miss Tashyra Ayers. So welcome, Tashyra. I swear to God, I've been trying to get her on here for 3 years, and we finally made it happen. So I'm excited about this. I've been waiting forever to have this conversation. So before we get started, I want to read a little bit of her bio, and then we're going to jump right into this conversation. So Tashyra is
eclectic.
She is gifted and multi-talented. She is not known to be boxed in one category. That is definitely true because I have grown to know her in the past 2 years, not to be in one box category. And her career speaks to the trajectory of her journey. She is a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. She is an award-winning media personality, published voiceover artist, speaker, and the author of newly released an Ayers Journal, My Story is My Wealth, an inspirational journal collection that helps women to maximize the royal within. Tashyra has contributed her voice to several published audiobooks, commercials, and documentaries. She is a marketing and public relations executive with over 15 years of experience in serving the corporate, healthcare, and entertainment industries. Tashyra specializes in creating and overseeing national marketing campaigns and is the intermediary for corporate and entertainment entities, helping them to leverage their influence across industries. So I'm going to pause right there and force it to Tashyra so she can go a little bit deeper. And, sharing with you guys a little bit more about her background and also her own personal journey from when she had her son.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being persistent and dedicated to motivating young moms into the cause. So because of your resilience, I'm here. And the funny thing is for your listeners or your viewers, we've talked and we communicate, you know what I mean, between us trying to get this together. But I just believe at the appointed time, all things come together. So just thank you for having me. It's an honor. But as you read in the bio, I am eclectic, and that wasn't a word or a realization that I could always attach to who I am as a person professionally. It was actually someone who I actually worked with over the last 3 to 5 years that was like, you're very eclectic. And I'm like, that's the word, you know what I mean? So we use diverse a lot, we multi-talented or but eclectic, it just captures everything. And the thing to note about everything that you read is that it all falls in line with the ability to communicate and the ability to create and develop relationships. So whether I'm communicating on behalf of corporate America, if I'm communicating on behalf of the entertainment industry, if I'm sharing my story in my book, I'm communicating on behalf of young teen moms everywhere. It's really about the ability to use my voice in different facets. And I really am an advocate. I'm an advocate for it. I'm a voice for the voice. And I'm dedicating my life moving forward, quite frankly, on with applying my voice and making sure other people's voices are heard. And that comes in, like I said, different forms. That can be in a written context, it can be in a visual creative context. It could be through a protest. It could be by calling up a elected official's office and expressing your disdain with something. But I think that it is our vocal cords is an overused yet not used enough muscle that allows us to get our message out. So and the book is actually, I'm working on a reprise to come out at some point. I don't know when, but I want to get more of the story in. And to that end, all I did was I took real life journal entries, compiled them into one publication, and that's what I took some courage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, major courage.
Yeah. So.
I've had the opportunity to meet your son because he spoke at one of our He's My Son luncheons.
Yes.
a year ago. It feels like it was just a month ago, but wow.
Literally.
Um, so that is your baby. I know, some of your history and experience of being a teen mom and, just overcoming some of the things that you experienced during that time. So could you share with us, just a little bit about, what you went through and just even how you even persevered and kept your head up and encouraged during that time?
Yeah. So that's loaded. So if I just start rambling, just stop me, because like I know we live this thing, so we can talk about it forever, right?
Yeah.
Well, for those that don't know, I had my son. I have one son. I had him when I was 14, a week before my 15th birthday, and I actually went through the pregnancy having told no one that I was pregnant. For looking back, for I would say the better of, I don't know, 7-8 months, I was in denial that I was actually pregnant.
Oh my
So I was,
goodness.
yeah, no doctor visits, no prenatal care, no health, and 14, although we're not old, we're still young old, but
Right.
14 then and 14 now, I feel like is a different 14.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was still a sense of youthfulness, and playfulness at that time. So I was
Mm-hmm.
doing that. I was going to the football games and roller coasters and jumping off monkey bars and hanging
Oh
with
my
the guys. I
gosh.
was a boy, yeah, when I was younger. So I went through the summer into the fall. I will never forget the day when someone realized that I was pregnant. I was at a football game. I'm from South Jersey, a small town called Clayton, New Jersey, although I'm in
Mm-hmm.
Philly now. But we were at a football game, and I had this really big sweatshirt on. And one of actually my son's cousins came to me and was like, "You're pregnant." And I'm like, "What? I'm not pregnant." That whole thing. I'm not pregnant. And because it's a small town, the word spread like
Mm-hmm.
wildfire. It got back to, actually, before it got back to my mother, um, my cousins found out, because they were kind of the popular girls in the town. So they found out, pulled me to the side, took me for a ride, and got it out of me that I was pregnant. And that was 3 weeks before I had my son.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so up until the last 3 weeks, literally no care, no anything. And it came out, we told my mother, who was extremely hurt. I mean, that the hurt that I saw in my mother, I to this day, I'm just like, I would love to take that back. But we were raised in a very strict, God-fearing household. And a lot of the teachings that we were raised in were very traditional. She didn't wear pants until I was 12 years old. So you could imagine what that kind of did, just um, in the sense of not just, okay, my 14-year-old daughter, but just all the morals and values that she raised us up with.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it came out, and I'll tell you, and I really found this to be true for a lot of people, that it was as much of a mental and emotional strain as much as it was physical, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The denial continued. That's the best way for me to put it. The denial continued for years after that. So I had my son. I really lived in a state of subconscious, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you get up, you take your shower, you go, and that's really, really, really it. I really didn't settle with the fact that I was a mother
Yeah.
for years after that, because frankly, I became a mom before I became a woman. And that in and of itself has consequences and repercussions to that decision. So before you know yourself, you're trying to get to know and raise another person, and you don't even know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of that, I actually had a chance to talk to some young moms a few weeks ago, and I reminded them that they're still getting to know themselves,
Yep.
right, while they're still trying to raise another human being. And it's hard not to forget that. But I had my son. 5 years later, my mother passed away. And so I had my son, I had my brother, who was slightly younger than me. And so I was raising the both of them at 19.
Yeah.
And, I went into my 20s. I attempted the, college education and everything. My mother was generous enough to allow me to have that experience, even if it was away just for 2 semesters.
Mm-hmm.
But I came back home. She was, and it was all in line because she passed away soon after I came home. But throughout my, I would say 20s and early 30s, I really delved into mothering my son the best way I knew how.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things I realized my mother didn't share with me verbally, but I just had to remember what she did in action. I've been evicted. We've lived in my car. I've lost jobs, stayed on couches of friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And it really began to dawn on me that, car repos and losing jobs and, the life
Yeah.
happens.
Yep.
But it dawned on me, and this is where I really want to help women who may be on the other side of this. Because I was in like survival mode, Nicole, I didn't stop to think about anything until my son got older, if that makes sense. So I just
Mm-hmm.
I just raised a child and went through that that that
Sorry.
process, and it came to a point where my brother was grown and he went to college. My son went off to college. And so it's not all bad. A lot of things happened, but I was dedicated to motherhood. My son went to Virginia State University. I've never had to go to a police station to bail him out.
Yes.
Yeah. So it can always be worse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was very fortunate and very blessed in that I had a wonderful child. And I used to say to him and to my family, if I could not have written a script for a better child. And I believe that God knows what we need even in that.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew that I was going to need a child that wasn't rebellious, that wasn't mouthy, that because I was going through so many other things,
Mm-hmm.
that he really has now become my voice of reason at this
Yeah.
juncture. But so he went off to school, graduated, went off to school. And when he went off to school, I lost everything again.
Mm.
So house, car, job in like 3 months time. This time though, because he was in Virginia State, and this is what I was saying earlier to some of the mothers that on the other side, I was here. He was taken care of because, scholarship and grant that takes care of the
Mm-hmm.
kids at school. But there were some things missing here. But what it allowed me to do was to do some introspective work that I needed to do, because
Mm-hmm.
I had engulfed myself so much in being a parent that I didn't know me. Right. And
Mm.
so what seemed to be a stripping away of things was that, so that all I had left was myself and God. Right. So now
Mm.
it's like, who are you when
Yeah.
your son doesn't need you day to day? Who are you when your brother has moved on, he's in college, he's doing well? Well, when you have a kid at 14, you don't know that answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your mom passes away, so and that was your anchor. So now I'm in my 30s and I'm asking myself, who am I? So all of the corporate success, all of the entrepreneurial successes, the ups and downs, they're great, they're wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a you aside from
Mm.
that.
Yep. Yep.
There is a person, a human, and look at what we're going through right now, right?
Yep.
It's a level playing field right now, to the
You're
degree
forced to
that
you're forced to be with yourself right now.
that's it.
Level.
That's it. Yeah, no, to your point, we're not able to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The and now I feel like there's layers to this whole virus thing, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Same
But
here.
at the end of the day, whether it's entertainers, entrepreneurs, artists, the everyday Joe, the male woman or male man, we're all talking about the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so and even through this time, I've been doing some reflecting over the last 10 months, but At the time when my son went to college, I lost everything. I was, staying with a friend. It was really a time for me to get, and you can't get time back. That time is gone. But I had to tap into the now of that moment and say, what's missing. I'll say this and I'll let you jump in. One of the things that I realized about myself is, and hopefully this will help someone too, that I did not know how to have personal relationships, especially with men, especially with, so it was strictly business. It was strictly professional. And the result of, my son's father, he took care of them, as we were young, as he could. They have their own relationship now. They have a great relationship. My father wasn't in the house, and it wasn't until I was an adult, here the last 5 to 10 years, that I realized that, okay, part of the aftermath of not knowing who you were and not having that male presence in your life consistently is that you don't know how to relate beyond the professional strength. Because professionally, I needed to know, because I needed to make money, because I needed to take care of myself.
Yeah.
But in the personal space, that wasn't a need for me. And, at that time, now I'm single, Nicole. I'm like, now, wait a minute. Now, come on now, But I think that if we kind of look at our story and really begin to look at ourselves, we will find a lot of things that are synonymous. We will find a lot of things that are cause and effect. A lot of things that it'll make sense. The light bulb will start going off over top of our heads. But so that's a little bit.
So you just touched on a lot. Okay. You touched on, from being pregnant at 14, losing your mom at 19, to have to care for your son and your brother, having the ups and downs with places to live, whatever. But then you also touched on like some of your successes within corporate America and the entertainment industry and things like that. And what I think also is very important, I feel like, or it sounds like, that from the time you got pregnant or the time you found out you were pregnant and you came to the realization that you're a mom, you went from being a teenager to a straight up adult and caring for not only just yourself, but your son, and your brother, and then having your mom there. I know when I was experiencing my pregnancy at 17, one of the main people I had in my corner was my mom. And she strengthened me. She gave me tough love at the same time, but she gave me that strength that I needed to move forward. And for you to be able to still persevere through all of the ups and downs that you experience is amazing. And I've met your son. Your son is adorable. He's respectful. And you've done a great job. And just like you said, God gives us, he does give us, what we need when we need it. Davon is definitely a testament to that. What I want to touch back on, actually a couple things. So the first question is, is there anything that you would change? And then the other question touches on something that we also talk about in our workshops with our young mothers, and that's being like the life balance piece. Because when we're young, teenagers, that's one piece. And then the second piece is we incorporate the to that, being a teenage mother. And then in some cases, people, we're working. And then in some cases, we have siblings. So we're another person to our sibling, or students. We're still a student at school. So we're wearing like so many hats. So it's two somewhat loaded questions, but
Okay.
so the first one being, is there anything that you would change from, getting pregnant, being in denial, um, the ups and downs, and then also how were you able to balance? Because like you said, you got in your 30s and you're like, who is Tashyra?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a balance?
Yeah. No, there wasn't. And we could just kind of back into the questions, begin with that one. There wasn't a balance, which is why I found myself in my 30s asking, who is Tashyra? And in this, as you and I both, and you more so than I, but talk to these young mothers, I realize they may not understand what I'm saying right in the moment at 15 when I tell them, don't forget about yourself. But I asked a question of them. I have to be honest, I got choked up. It was a weekly mentoring session with some young girls out of Delaware. And I asked them this question and I literally got choked up. I said to them, do you all get up and think about what you do? Or is it subconscious and you just get up and do it? And every last one of them said it's subconscious. I just get up and do it. And that it choked me up because I'm probably, I don't know if I'm able to articulate it, but I will say this. I know that can potentially be the beginning of what I experience, because when you do things subconsciously, you're surviving. You're not necessarily thriving. You're not being intentional. You're not saying, and so we talked about ways they can be more intentional, but what I was feeling was myself at 14, 15, and I wasn't able to articulate it. I didn't have anyone, I didn't have a motivating young moms. I didn't have a Nicole to come and say, listen, I'm here with you. I know what you're going through. And so that still is a sensitive spot for me, because I think that laid the foundation of a lack of relationship with myself. Because once you go from raising a baby, or not raising, but caring for a baby, then they're a toddler, then they're a teenager, then they're an adult. So you almost at no point, unless you're intentional about it, have an opportunity to get to know who you are. So there was a lack of balance. I'll just break it down in multiple areas. There was a lack of balance in my household, because I only saw a woman, working, to make sure her children were cared for. I didn't see the male, right? So the man-woman relationship, the husband-wife relationship, that creates a sense of balance. I didn't see that. All I saw was my mom grinding and working and constantly in survival mode to make sure we had. So that imbalance started well before I even had my son, right? So now I have him. And there's a plethora of emotions. I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I'm hurt, but all at the same time, I gotta get up and I gotta feed this baby, and my mother was still hurt, right? And so just when we're getting our relationship back into good standing, she passes away, right? So now I go right from that teenage mom mode to teenage sister mom mode, because my brother is here. Right. And then I'm into, okay, let me try to get myself together. And it was nothing but the grace of God that even allowed me to have the success in corporate and entertainment, PR, because he knew what I needed to care for the family. And so it went from that. And then in my 20s, I had, family members that needed places to stay themselves, people that needed help. And people 20 years my senior coming to me, asking me for support, and I'm opening my doors and my wallet, whatever. You do that for people. So the imbalance, like I said, it began, it began in the beginning. It started before I had my son, and it just continued until I wasn't able to answer a question that I had to ask myself. And that is, what is the one thing you have not committed yourself to your entire life? And that answer was me. I had never committed myself to me. It was a commitment to everything else. It was a commitment to proving that I was going to do this. It was a commitment to that I was not just a statistic. It was a commitment that I'm going to do more than go to county cop. You know, it was a commitment to everything outside of me. And my mother laid a beautiful foundation as well, of faith and spirituality and just being connected, right? And so I think those things, that the foundation she laid, they simmer. You know, they're in there somewhere. We may not pull on them right away, but they're in there, and they help us to stay grounded. I had blinders on, Nicole. I mean, you couldn't distract me if you. I mean, listen, right here. This is where I was. Just this. That's it. And on one hand, I think it saved me from a lot more. You know, it could have been more heartache. It could have been more disappointment and hurt. On one hand, it saved me from that. On another hand, I realized that I lacked relationship. And that's just across the board. Outside of my peer view, I lacked relationship. I had a phrase, and I'll answer the first question and shut up. But I had a phrase I used to say, I know how to be personable without being personal. So I can be personable. Hey, girl, how you doing? Whatever. And you know nothing about me, right? I was in a situationship with a guy and we were like going into year 2, and he was like, I know nothing about you. And I had to sit there and was like, he's absolutely right. He knows nothing. So that's just a wall. So there was no balance. Now to your first question, anything I would have changed? Wow. Well, I certainly would not have wanted my mother to pass away. I think that's probably an obvious one. You know what, and this may sound, I don't know how it's going to sound, but I'm going to say it. I can't even say that I wish I didn't have my son. I wish I wasn't pregnant. Does that make sense? Like, I can't say that I wish I hadn't, although I did get to a place as he was around 15 or 16 years old. And I will never forget it. He was about 15, 16, it was the spring of that year. And I went through like 3 months of missing my mother in just like the worst way. I was like, Mom, where are you? Where are you at? I need you right now. I'm mothering a 15-year-old boy, and I'm only 29. Like, what is happening right now? You know?
Right.
And in that moment, I really got into a funk because I said, I felt like it was unfair to him that I had him, you feel me? I had him so young, and I'm sitting here, you know, tongue-tied and like don't know what to do. So I even felt bad about what I thought. Again, we tend to put ourselves in mindsets or create realities that aren't there. But I thought I was putting him at a disadvantage because I had him so young, and, you know, people didn't believe he was my son. Never. I mean, ever, no matter where they were. You know, I was 29 and those parents were 45 years old, you know? So I went through that. I went through, you know, maybe I shouldn't have, or maybe I should have done this, or, you know, just because I felt like he was at a disadvantage. But then I had a conversation with him, and I encourage the moms to do this as well. He said, Mom, I don't know the difference. I don't know the difference.
That's a good, like, because he hasn't experienced anything else other than what he had with you.
That's it. He has nothing to compare it to. It doesn't matter, you know, how old another person's parents are. It does to him. I'm his mother, right? And so he don't care about. I mean, I thought I was the coolest mom walking around this side of town, honey.
And you are, and I have pictures to prove it.
Oh God. But I'm still his mom, right? He doesn't think that, you know, he doesn't care that I, you know, wear red lipstick and leopard tops. He doesn't care about that. You know, I'm his mom. And so to his point, I'm his mom. Like, this is what he was born into. This is what he knows. So I created, and understandably so, I created this moment of regret because I saw other moms, you know, with their families, and they're taking their kids on all these lavish vacations and all of that. So I mean, if I were to say I would change anything, of course it would be my mother still being here. But I'm able to find solace in that. I mean, I don't think it gets better. I think you just learn to deal with the absence and live with the absence. I would change not being so closed off. Not being so closed off. I was extremely blocked off from everywhere because, and my mother knew this about me, I've always been this way. This is not anything new. The bar for myself used to be, it was just high. I just set the bar high. I don't know why. My mother used to say I got it from my grandmother on my father's side. But I always set the bar high. I always had extreme expectations. Sometimes they weren't realistic. And so I put myself in a box, in a wall. Like I didn't let anybody in, and I just went full steam ahead. So I would change that, and I would say to your viewers, and I mean, it's still part of my personality. I tend to go within. I call it going into myself. But I'm a little better at it now. So I would just challenge your viewers, to the moms that, even in your moments of whatever, regret, embarrassment, uncertainty, disappointment, have your moment, but let it just be a moment. Don't cut yourself off because you are embarrassed, because you are unsure. There is someone outside of your sphere of influence that is able to have a conversation with you and say, listen, I went through that and this is how I came out. So I would say I would probably be more relational and a little more open.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You answered one of the things I normally ask all of my guests, and that is to share like some words of encouragement. And I love how you just said, basically, you can sit in the moment, but don't stay in the moment. Those feelings and things like that, because I feel like we're in such an even more disadvantaged time with the social media, because I feel like in one way it can add value to our lives, but in another way it can be a disadvantage because, we might see other people that's living their best life, and then we look at our situation and compare it, not intentionally, but unknowingly. We don't even realize it, and then we just look like, oh, I don't have that. And so to our young moms, don't even think about comparing your situation to anyone else's, because you never know what's going on behind closed doors or behind that picture or that post. And that's something that we also talk about, in some of our workshops, just about, that's whole self-care and staying and looking within. And, you can stay in that moment. I mean, not stay in that moment, but you can be in the moment, but not stay in it. I know that you have some things going on right now. You actually invited me to one of them. So if you don't have to share what you coming up, but do you have anything brewing at the moment that you would like to share with our listeners? And also share with everyone where they can find you if they would like to connect and collaborate with you.
Sure. So I've been somewhat, mum is the word. I've been a little quiet in terms of the behind the scenes stuff that I've been working on. And that's part of just the rediscovery and what I'm supposed to do moving forward. I put some things out on social media, but before last week with George Floyd, I literally hadn't posted on Instagram since February 14th. And that's because, I realized that this is a moment of rediscovery and kind of what's next. So I'm in the midst of that, but I will say that moving forward, as I mentioned earlier, everything I'm doing has to do with the power of voice, the power of bringing words to life, the power of storytelling, and that as a marketing tool, that as a mentoring tool, that's what media has come to. And with everything that's going on right now, it's so very necessary. So in terms of what I have coming up and things that are going to be rolling out. So I'm more focused now, more disciplined. So I'm still eclectic, but I'm not doing as much that bio said. But because we have to get to a point where we're focused and not be a Jane of all trades and a master of none. So I'm at a place now where it's about mastery through focused discipline, and that can only be achieved through self-discovery, rediscovery, and just kind of some patience. Let me say that to you viewers: be patient with yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Show yourself some grace for your story to unfold, right? You 14, 15, 17, 18, your mom, that is not all. It's more to it than. So just be patient and show yourself grace. The same grace you would give somebody else and assuming that they just popped up wonderful. No. Show yourself that grace.
Yeah.
So really quickly, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Tashyra's Voice, and that's TASHYRAS Voice. I am going to be, and I'm so excited about this, but middle of June, summer specifically, I'm going to be officially launching my voiceover school and services. Specifically to African-American authors and writers, even entrepreneurs who have ebooks. So I'll be using my voice in that vein, converting ebooks to audiobooks, just helping you maximize and deepen the depth of your product offering. So I'll be rolling that out the middle of this month. Also, I am on Reach Gospel Radio. I don't talk about this at all.
That's right.
I was talking about it all, but I'm on Reach Gospel Radio. Tashyra Talks Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, my segment runs at 8:20 and at 10:20. And as of last week, we actually added 2 extra segments called News at 2. And so what I do is talk about current events every Wednesday and every Friday. So if you or your viewers have any current events relating, right now I'm focusing on the social justice reform and the revolution that's happening right now. But any of your business owners, if you have anything going on, I dedicated News at 2 to, free of charge and everything. I just want to get that information out there. So Reach Gospel Radio and reachgospelradio.com. So that's it. Yeah. Oh, and I'll be talking to you next week.
Yes.
About 7 other ladies. Again, this is using our voices, bringing together all of our resources to see what we can do to help women and single mothers, specifically that are watching what's going on right now, offering them resources, offering them a voice, offering them prayer. So we'll be talking about that next week. So
awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad that we were able to get together tonight. I honestly could talk to you forever, but maybe we'll do a part 2 or something.
Yeah, we could do part 2.
Well, thank you again. And, you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. You too. Stay well. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you guys soon.